I'm very excited for a very special tasting. Just a little quick notes before we get started. This tasting is going to be recorded, so if anybody's not comfortable with that, turn your camera off. But otherwise, this is going to be on YouTube later, so you can watch it afterwards, or if you need to pause it at any point, it's going to be available. My name is Zach Berg, and I'm so happy to be here today with all of you to talk about all this delicious stuff we have. And we have a couple other important people on the call today. We have Will. Will is another co-owner, and you're going to see him helping us with a lot of the chats. So if you have questions, make sure to type them in. And then you've already maybe heard Benji. Benji is amazing. He's the man behind the men, and he's going to keep us on pace today and make sure we don't mess up anything. And so if you guys have questions, there's a lot of people to help you with them. We're going to try to keep most people on mute, but if you have a question, you can raise your hand and we'll unmute you or unmute yourself. And this way we can kind of keep it a little bit orderly. And one quick note before we get going is, I know we have a wide range of ages at this tasting today. So if you guys need to pause and get up, or if you guys want to watch the recording later and not get all the way to the end, please make it your tasting. We're here to have fun today, and you know, whatever fits into your family's lifestyle is going to be perfect, and it's going to be on YouTube, like I said, later. So we'll update it right away. And then the other thing is, I think it'd be really fun today if everybody changes your Zoom name. So Benji, I asked him earlier to change mine. I'm going to be Zach Berg, the Stinky Limburger, because my last name is Berg and Limburger. And you guys go ahead and change your names, and we can see some fun ones. At the end, I'll make sure that we highlight some of the most funny ones. So I know there's a lot of fun stuff in front of us, and I know everybody's hungry, including myself. So I encourage you guys to try things, and don't necessarily wait for me to say the words. You can try everything in front of you as long as your parents say it's okay. But what I do want to make sure is that we save a little bit of everything, so when we are talking about it, you still have some to try. It's always sad when I'm talking about something and we already ate it all. So while you're free to try and graze and try things with different combinations, make sure we leave a little bit on the plate, so when we're talking about it, you still can do all the different exercises with us. Today, we're going to talk about how we can use all of our senses to try food, right? We always talk about how things taste, but there's so many different parts to food, right? Food has smell, it has, it looks different, right? There's orange cheeses, there's white cheeses. This one has it. I don't want to go ahead. We're going to talk about them all, but they all have different sights, different smells, different tastes. They feel different to our fingers or on our tongue, and sometimes they even sound different. I think it's funny to think about what cheese sounds like. I don't know if anybody's been contemplating that as much as I have the last couple of days, but we're going to talk about all of our senses and how we taste with all of them. So I'm going to want everybody's help tonight. It's a really participatory tasting. And so whether or not you want to contribute by telling me what you felt or what you smelled in the text using your parents' help, or if you want to raise your hand when we ask for helpers, you can go on the screen like I am and tell us. So those are some of the rules and kind of how we're going to do things tonight. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? Good. Benji, we're doing all right?
Yeah, looks like you are good to go. And if people have, we do have one question. So the Brylensky.
Yes. Dan, do you have a question?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Okay, not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll get back to you.
We'll come back.
Hey guys, we have one question over here. If
The
that's okay.
cheeseburgers.
Really?
We changed our name to the Cheesy Bird.
The Cheesy Birds, that's a good one.
Okay.
Okay.
Comment.
Mom, it's just cheeseburgers.
Us Bergs really like the screen. It comes in the family. It's all right, you know. Okay, so I think to get everybody started, I want to go and take us to a little video for a second. This way we can be a little goofy and set the stage for tonight. So, Benji, if you don't mind queuing up our first video, we're going to get ready to taste some cheese. And to get in the mood, we're going to sing about cheese. So if any of the kids are up there want to get up and dance a little bit to get all the energy out, I encourage it.
Can everyone see my screen? Give me a yes.
Yep, I think so.
Perfect.
Koala, giraffe, koala, giraffe, koala and giraffe.
Hey, Koala, what are you doing?
Hey, giraffe, I'm trying to make a sandwich, but somebody ate my cheese.
What about all these other cheeses?
I don't know. What are those?
Those are great. You know what? I think I've got a fantastic idea. We need to go to the Kingdom of Cheese. Let me make a quick call. Can we have 2 tickets, please, to the Kingdom of Cheese?
Here we go again.
First class. Please. Okay.
All right, let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen of the court, all rise if you please. Behold, the King of Cheese.
Cheese. He's the King of Cheese. You can taste all of these in the Kingdom of Cheese.
There's Swiss cheese,
Pepper Jack.
Parmesan, melted on my Mac.
Mozzarella.
Cheddar's better.
Cheese. He's the King of Cheese. Extra cheese.
Pretty please.
In the Kingdom of Cheese.
It's ooey gooey some of the
My
time.
mommy has it with her wine.
Nacho cheese, oh how divine. String cheese.
Cream cheese.
Stinky cheese.
Cheese, please.
Cheese. Have some if you please. It's glorious cheesiness in the Kingdom of Cheese. I now declare that today and every day shall be cheesy.
I told you, there's so many cheeses, right?
Right, yeah.
Fantastic.
Except now I got all this cheese in my teeth. Cheese.
Okay. That was a pretty silly video, but I think it was a lot of fun. I hope you did as much as I did. I was dancing the whole time. I also hope you maybe heard some cheeses you find familiar, things that you've tried before. And I thought the koala had a good point, or I'm sorry, the giraffe. There are so many different cheeses, so we're going to try a couple different ones. I think that it's often that we really like the cheese we really like, whether it's a string cheese or a mozzarella or something somebody always gets for us at the grocery store, but it's important we try new things. So tonight, hopefully we have a couple new cheeses for all of you. So I mentioned earlier, when we try a new cheese, we're going to go through all of the senses today and taste it and smell it and all those things. So let's do it. Let's start with this first cheese. And the first cheese, everybody, we're going to taste is the fromage de Affinois. It's quite a name. And it's like a brie-looking cheese, if that helps anybody. And it's this guy. So that's first question. What do people see? Does anybody see something that really jumps out at them? Feel free to, like I said, raise your hand or type. And if Benji sees anything that we really want to make sure we highlight, he's going to make sure to slow me down. But what do people see? I know I notice a couple things. I noticed something that almost could be a texture, but as I touch this cheese, it moves kind of funny for me. So I see that. I see that it's a jiggly cheese. It's a soft cheese. I also see that you'll see, like, if you think of a block of cheese, it has this funny covering on it. It has something going on. And so I want to introduce us to a word, rind. I don't know if everybody knows that word, but the rind of a cheese. So, you know, the Bennings, the other cheese, that has a rind, but it's plastic. This one has its own kind of cheese rind. So it's edible if anybody wants to try it. And then the next thing is we're going to smell it. So I know that sometimes adults say don't play with your food. This is going to be one of those situations where I encourage you to kind of touch and play with your food. So go ahead and take it and smell it. I'm curious what you guys smell. This is a pretty mild cheese, but I think it's going to smell like some things you might remember and you might have some familiarity with, have tried before. Does anybody smell something that they want to share with the group? Or does anybody see a texture, which is the next one, or feel a texture? You see, I'm kind of playing with mine that feels different.
Looks like the cheeseburgers have a comment.
Let's hear it.
So, the like cheese that's from like France is very creamy.
Yeah. Lily has a lot of deep knowledge of cheese, so she knows similar to other cheeses from France, it's really creamy. She's totally right. This cheese, Richie, do you have something to say too?
It smells like it should be like a goat cheese.
It smells like a goat cheese. So he thinks it smells like a goat cheese. And some of you might know what that smells like, that kind of yogurty smell. Some people might also think of yogurt. Kind of smells a little yogurty, a little milky. I think it definitely smells like those types of things. What about textures? Benji, what are you about to say?
Have something to say. So if you
Cool.
Go for it.
Do you want to say it, Dan?
Kind of see that this cheese is a little bit bumpy on the sides.
On the ride?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's a little bumpy. You're totally right. And so that bump, there's two things going on there. So these cheeses, they have a nickname for cheese nerds like myself. We might call them bloomy rind, like bloom, like a flower blooms and opens. And the reason and how it has those bumps is the rind kind of pushes out as it gets older. It gets fluffier. And so those bumps are actually the ridges from sitting on a shelf as it kind of fluffed up a little bit. That's a great observation.
Looks like Munster Man has something to say as well. He's been
Munster Man, please.
It tastes like butter.
Tastes like butter. Ding, ding, ding. Munster Man is very correct. So we jump to the taste, which is the next thing to do. So everybody make sure you've tasted it. And Munster Man said it tasted like butter. I love butter. I was once nicknamed the Butter Baron at one of my jobs in the past. I think it has a totally buttery flavor. A little bit of that yogurtiness, or like the goat cheese, like Richie mentioned. It has a little tang to it, and then a really round, nutty note of butteriness. You're very correct. So this cheese is a brie style cheese. It's not a total brie. In France, they wouldn't call it that, because in France, brie means a lot of specific things, and we can go into that another time, but here we tend to use these words a little bit more loosely. So this cheese is a double cream, but it's often we would just call it a double cream brie, or we drop all that and just call it a brie. And the double cream part means it has even more fat. And so butter is made up of the same stuff as cheese is made up of, but it's a matter of the butter fat percentage. So in order to be butter, by law, your cream that you've turned into butter has to have 83% butter fat, if I remember the number correctly. And this is close to like 75% butter fat, 68, somewhere in that range. So you're really only about 10-20% off away from being butter itself. The other things that are in there are going to be trace minerals and calcium and other fun stuff. But it's really close to butter, and it's really tasty. I like to just smear this one on a hot bagel or something like that. Yeah. What else do you guys think? What does anybody else have any other things it tastes like that they wanted to say?
Yes.
No.
Looks like Mookeridge has their hand up, so I will. I'll call on them.
Hello, Mockridges.
Looks like you're on mute still. If you.
Hello.
Hello.
It tastes a little like sweet to me, like sweeter than normal cheese. Like
Oh, good call. That's a great observation. So she said it tastes a little sweeter than normal cheese. And I agree with you. And I think that part of it is that it's really sweet. And the other part is that it doesn't have some of the acid and other things that we would taste in other cheeses. So there's less kind of getting in the way of the sweetness. And it's a great segue. I want to make sure everybody opens their jam that they got. Did everybody get a jam jar, a fig jam, I think?
No. Jam.
No jam. Never mind, your beverages. Whatever you guys have with you, whether it's your beverages or your jams, or if you have jam in your cupboard, go ahead and open some and try the cheese with that. Try adding some sweetness. You know, we talk a lot about pairings here at Mongers, and pairings, it tends to be, everybody talks about wine and cheese. Even the song talked about wine and cheese. But you can pair cheese with anything, right? When we make a mac and cheese or a grilled cheese, we're sometimes pairing different cheeses together with the other ingredients. And when we're having cheese on a board, it's the same idea. What happens when I have a little fig jam in this cheese? Does it change the flavor of the cheese? What happens if I had something really salty with the cheese? Does it change the flavor of the cheese? So we have a couple beverages that some of you guys got. Some of you didn't, it sounds like, and please let us know if you didn't so we can take care of you on the back end. But for those who have the beverages, we have a lemonade, which is gonna give us acid, that like tangy, right? Lemons makes your mouth pucker. That's from the acid. And so this is gonna give us a shot of that when we're trying different cheeses to play with. This is a really cool one. It's coming from Detroit, from Eastern Market is where these guys are located. And they're putting a little rose water in there. Do you guys know that rose water is a thing you can put in food? It's just like it sounds like. It's a little bit of like a nectar from the flower itself. So it's really floral. And I love what it does to that lemonade. And then the other one's another Michigan soda or a Michigan pop, but it's not quite a pop. It's a sparkling tonic. So they're using natural fruits and natural ingredients, and they're putting it with tonic water. In this case, we're using dandelion root and apple. And so as you're tasting, try to taste it after you dry the different drinks and see how it changes the flavors. Does it make it sweeter or does it make it saltier? It's really interesting. The order in which we try things can change how they taste.
For sure. Looks like we have a question from the Brelinskis.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Daniel.
The pink lemonade does not really taste like tastes a little bit sour than the normal lemonade.
Yeah, I could totally see that. So that's kind of the same conversation we were having when the Mockridges mentioned it tasted sweet with the cheese. It's because there was less acid. In this lemonade, they do the same amount of acid, but they do less sugar. So for us, it doesn't taste like normal lemonade. It tastes a little more sour, a little tangier. I think, and I'm hoping, Daniel, you'll agree with me, that with the cheeses and all this really creamy stuff, that having something a little more sour kind of helps cut through all that fat.
That's so
Monder Zach, I think that the lemonade is delicious.
Good. So the next cheese we have is a really cool different cheese. And Richie already gave a little sneak peek when he said goat cheese. This one is in fact a goat cheese. Have you guys ever tried? There's a lot of different animals that make cheese. I have my cow friend right here that you might have noticed. And I thought I might have to go online today and find other friends to join me. But does anybody have other animals that they've tried cheese from?
Looks like Babcock Gabri, are they raising their hand?
Hello?
Hello.
I've had sheep and buffalo cheese.
Sheep and buffalo.
There's sheep cheese. We've had sheep cheese.
Yeah, sheep.
Awesome. That's amazing. You guys had sheep cheese. I think I heard buffalo. Maybe I got excited and threw that in myself. Richie mentioned goat. Those are most of the big animals that we eat cheese from. There's a couple other exceptions. Will and I have tried chocolate from camel milk. I have yet to try cheese from camel milk, but they make milk. But most of it is in those 4 animals we mentioned earlier. And every animal, the milk kind of has a different composition. It's made up of different building blocks. So it's all made up of the same building blocks, but the amount of them changes. And so that's how it changes the flavor. Goat cheese tends to have the least amount of fat in it and the most amount of protein and structure, while sheep milk has the most fat and a pretty high amount of protein, but it's really known for being very decadent. You guys ready to start going through this cheese the same way we went through the last? We're going to use all of our senses again. You guys ready? So Bennings, also, real quick note as we're cutting this, we don't want to eat the rind on this one. It is plastic. You can kind of peel it right off. And underneath it is a little thin paraffin, but it's mostly delicious. And if anybody eats it, it's not going to upset your stomach. But this stuff that you see I peeled right off, we really want to not eat. It won't be tasty. Okay, who's ready? Let's go through this. First, we're going to look at the cheese. What looks different about this cheese? You know, I kind of gave my cheese, if you guys remember the first time, a little bounce, and I wanted to see how it jiggled. This cheese, you know, if I do that same thing, what does it look different? It's a little more solid, I think, and I see little cracks and things like that, but that's a major difference.
Looks like.
What about the color? Yeah, please, Benji.
Yeah, Greenlinski's. Dan?
What's your question, Daniel?
The goat cheese tastes a little bit like normal cheese. Just a little.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. You know, it's amazing that to you it tastes like normal cheese, because I think when I was your age, it would have tasted so different to me, because I didn't grow up eating the cool cheeses I know you've grown up eating. I've made a lot of cheese trays I think you've gotten to try. And so I know that you like good cheese. But I grew up eating like, you know, orange squares of cheese or string cheese. So I love that you think this tastes normal. You just made my whole day.
Looks like Richie has a question.
Yes, sir, Richard.
So, the middle cheese, it tastes a little bit creamy.
Tastes a little creamy. Cool. I love it.
Not as much as the first one, but yeah, it tastes a little bit creamy. I mean,
yeah. Okay, it feels a little creamy. So, parents, I apologize ahead of time, and please get a napkin if you need it. But I want you guys to feel the cheese. Richie did a great job talking about how it feels different. So you'll notice when I taste cheese, even professionally, when I'm in like fancy places, I take a little piece and I squeeze it between my fingers, almost like Play-Doh, and I keep squeezing it. And that's not going to be very nice cheese to eat afterwards, but it gives me so much information. And it's all the information Richie was saying, right? When we eat cheese, it always tastes creamy or feels creamy on the palate, right? Because our saliva gets involved and it's just, it's tasty cheese. And so you don't really get as much information from your tongue as I would get from just squeezing it a little bit. And so if I took the first cheese, you know, I can barely squeeze it because it's just so soft it falls apart. But compared to like a Parmesan or a harder cheese, the Gouda really, it's like Play-Doh almost. It has a really pliable texture. Great call. Perfect. So those are, yeah,
go for it. I think the Mockridge or the Mookridge, as they've changed their name to, have a question.
Yes, please.
Not really a question, but a observation. I would describe this as like smooth. It's kind of like also squishy.
Yeah, squishy cheese. I love it. And it doesn't bounce back. It's not quite squeaky cheese, which is another term you sometimes hear, but it's squishy cheese. Does anybody have a smell that they smell yet?
Looks like Stilton Starla has something to say.
Good name.
It kind of smells and tastes like paneer.
Paneer. Oh, I love that. You have a great cheese vocabulary. For those who don't know paneer, it's an Indian cheese. It's a curd-based cheese, so it doesn't really melt. Yeah.
Does this melt? Does this melt?
This does melt. This melts really well. Yeah, so it's a different making process than a paneer. Paneer is really like a giant chunk of curd in a similar way as a halloumi. This cheese is kind of cut curd made to the final step, so it's going to melt and do all the things that you want it to do. This is actually a really nice goat cheese for if you wanted to make a goat mac and cheese or an alternative milk grilled cheese. This is the one I would suggest.
Looks like
Does anybody notice a smell on this cheese?
Yeah, we have Ariana Rebecca raising their hand, so we're gonna put them on.
It kind of smells like Swiss.
Like Swiss cheese. Great answer. Great answer. I always think of Swiss as having a sweet, buttery smell. So I get that too. I think it does have some of those Swiss notes. And for me, with goat cheese, there's one other little note with that sweetness and with that creaminess, And it's not a word you guys probably say very often, but I think I can explain it well. So the word is herbaceous, herbaceousness, okay? I know that's a terribly long word, but it's like herbs. It tastes and smells kind of like grassiness, or like the herb cabinet or spice cabinet. There's a little bit of like rosemary or those type of smells in this cheese, and that's really common in goat cheese. That's why I really like goats.
Looks like Werner and the Curd Burglars have something to say.
Greatest name.
Will,
Yes,
you are on
please.
if you are ready.
Like bread.
Jack thinks that cheese tastes like
Bread.
bread. And
Oh.
Kev, what do you?
No, I'm Loki.
Okay.
And I think that that tastes bread. Monogato Jack.
Monterey Jack.
Oh my Lord, you guys are good. It does taste like a Monterey Jack. It has a lot, and you know what? Texturally, it's so similar to the Monterey Jack, and I think you could do a lot of the same things. So back to I believe it was the Fruitmans who were asking about how it melts. Just like Monterey Jack, if you want to make goat cheese nachos, this is the direction I'd send you in. Like Monterey Jack, and bread is a great tasting note from Jack. I think bread, you know, has this like, bread has yeast, and so there's like a fermented kind of fun flavor that a lot of things will taste like bread. Bread also has a sweetness, kind of like cereal, and I think that those are tasting notes that come up all the time. For anybody who feels a little lost with tasting notes, I think they can be really confusing. We keep saying all these words, but all we're doing is eating cheese. And so it's not that there's any of those things in the food, but it makes us think of those things. It makes us remember those flavors, or think of different dishes with those things in them.
Perfect. I think
And the more we eat in life, and the more we kind of collect these flavors, the more tasting notes we can kind of shoot out there when we're trying to talk about food. What's up, Benji?
I think we got a few more people looking to give some opinions. So I think the Brelinskis and Dan. Let's go to him real quick.
Daniel, go ahead.
The double cream cheese kind of smells like mac and cheese.
Oh, I like that. It smells like mac and cheese, like good things to come.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. We
I
have.
like it.
I know the cheeseburgers were raising their hands, so I think Richie has a comment.
Yes, Bergs.
So I think it smells kind of like milk.
Good.
I think it smells kind of like lotion.
Like lotion. Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. So it has some of that creamy, that's
Yeah. Oh, are we muted?
Zach, you got muted on accident there, so looks like cut you off. Let's see.
This gives me a chance. Actually, there we go. I wanted to show everybody my shirt anyways. Don't all shout out at once, but I'm wondering if anybody sees any hidden pictures in my Red Wings shirt. My shirt comes from this really great organization that's in the Rust Belt market, which was with one of our other shops in Ferndale, and they are called Attack Hunger Detroit, and they give some proceeds to food charities. So I really like their stuff. And at the end, I'd love to hear if anybody saw the little hidden pictures. But I think it's time to go to another cheese, Benji, unless we have a bunch of people waiting.
I saw a couple people raise their hand. I don't know if the Mockridges have one more thing to say.
Yeah, let's get our last thoughts out on the middle cheese. Go for it, friends.
Stop.
She was going to answer your question, but she'll wait till the end.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad you saw it quickly. I love this shirt. Okay, are we ready for the orange cheese? I already gave away one of the answers to what does it look like, but are we ready for this one?
Looks like we are good to go.
Okay, so are we ready to do number one? What does the cheese look like? So I mentioned one thing, it's orange. I also think when we look at the texture and we give the jiggle test, we see some things, right? There's no jiggle. It's a firmer cheese than anything we've had so far. And it has little pock marks and kind of a little bit more craggy texture. It almost looks like a mountain or something. I hear somebody wants to say something. What do we see?
It's orange and square like Donald Trump.
I'm speechless.
My
That was
dad told
wonderful.
me to say that.
Nobody told you to say that.
Okay. What about feel? Does anybody done our little Play-Doh test yet and broken off a piece? I'm going to go ahead and start mine. And you might notice as you're taking this little piece, little pieces fall off faster than when I did this to the Gouda, right? And that's that protein versus fat and the like smoothness. This is a little less fat, a little less rich, and so it crumbles a little bit more.
Perfect. I think I saw a raised hand from Ariana, Rebecca, and August.
Wonderful.
It tastes a little gooey.
It tastes a little gooey. I love that. Yeah, please.
And it tastes a little hard and stiff.
Yeah, it's a little harder and stiff. Those are great observations. Has anybody tried smelling it yet? I get a really specific note, and we haven't smelled it yet, so I'm curious if anybody does. You also might have noticed I really like doing this with my cheese. I take a new piece, and I break it open, and then I smell it right away after it broke open. Sometimes I feel like you get even more smell in that first second.
Like a cheddar.
It smells like cheddar.
Great
Like
answer.
mac
It
and
definitely
cheese.
smells
It's
like
like
cheddar.
mac and cheese cheddar. It tastes.
I think the young lady who said it smelled gooey or tasted gooey, it's a similar idea. We think of the mac and cheese, and that's where our brain goes. So it tastes like the mac and cheese. It tastes gooey. Those are all great answers.
Looks like we have another one, Ariana. And
Yeah.
It smells a little Play-Doh-y.
Oh, it smells like Play-Doh. Great answer. You guys have great noses.
I got cool.
Okay, and then we're gonna have your turns for a while. Yeah.
Why?
Go ahead.
It smells a little bit like regular cheese.
Like regular cheese. Great. And I think this cheese is going to be the most familiar so far. I hear like the cheddar notes and things like that. This is going to taste like regular cheese in a good way. Does anybody else have anything it smells like?
looks like Munster Man and Vivian. So we'll go Munster Man first.
Yeah.
It smells like beer.
Smells like beer. Oh, good answer. A lot of similar notes as bread and beer. I like that. Yes, sir.
Looks like Vivian and Cyrus.
Or it smells. Why did they put it the cheddar? The cheese that smells like cheddar in caves. Why did they put it in caves?
Ooh. Did you read it said caves? That's a great question. Why did they put it in caves? That's actually the smell that I thought that maybe somebody might come up with. It kind of maybe smells like some of our basements.
I think it's harder
like-
on this side.
So real quick, I want to answer this question and then we can go on to somebody else. So why do we put cheese in caves? The reason is, if we think of a long time ago, before we had air conditioning, caves stay a similar temperature, whether it's hot or cold outside. Caves don't change temperature a lot. And so caves were really good places to store cheese before we had refrigeration. And to my point earlier, it gives it a little smell. It gives it a little special flavor. And so I think aging something in a cave can be kind of fun. What's next, Benji? I think I cut somebody off. Do we have another question?
Looks like Maeve's iPad. So someone from that family has something to say.
Yes.
I think that cheese tastes like cheddar cheese, but more bitter.
Ooh, good answer. Good answer. So cheddar cheese, but a little more bitterness. So this is Red Leicester. This cheese is very old in recipe. Not so much this individual wheel, but this cheese has been made since like the 1600s in that range. And it is a cheese that came out around the same time as cheddar in the UK and England. So cheddar is made in an area called Somerset. Originally, all cheddar had to be made in Somerset, England. Nowadays, obviously, there's cheddar from Wisconsin, there's cheddar from Vermont, there's cheddar from everywhere. But Red Leicester comes from a village not too far away called Leicester in Leicestershire, and they called it after their city. Instead of naming it after the city next door, they named it after the city it was made in. So it's Red Leicester. It's totally tastes like a cheddar. It totally is like a cheddar. It's kind of like how I wouldn't call this one a brie. I don't like calling this one a cheddar, but they're really similar. And for most reasons, they're the same. You also will notice I mentioned the cheddars are crumbly. And so is this cheese, right? I mentioned how when I tried to make it into Play-Doh, it kind of fell apart. And that's because when they're making the cheese, when it's really young, they chop it into tiny little pieces and stack it. And they keep doing that. And so it kind of crumbles and melts like that. What other questions?
Looks like Richie's got his hand up for the cheeseburgers.
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you mush it around a little bit and like don't let the pieces fall, it actually feels like Play-Doh.
Yeah. So far it looked and tastes a little Play-Doh-y. It's really funny that textures, if you took 100 different cheeses and did that little squishy trick, I think you would be really surprised. While there's not a huge difference, there's these little subtle differences. And when I'm judging cheeses or evaluating cheese, that's a lot of what I do is to try to find those little subtle differences. Has anybody tried different beverages and seen what it does with the different flavors? Does anybody know any interesting ones? I, for instance, really love the lemonade with the goat cheese. The goat cheese is so creamy and it had that herb flavor that I mentioned earlier, and I thought the lemon brought it out. Anybody have any other tastings that they liked or any combinations that they really enjoyed?
Looks like Stilton Starla's got something.
Yes, Miss Starla.
I really liked that creamy cheese with the jam on the crust.
Oh, good.
Jam.
Good. It is the jam. I love it. So, friends, does anybody have any cheese questions before we switch modes into chocolate mode?
Looks like Werner.
Does anybody like chocolate here, by the way?
Couple
Couple people.
The Curd Burglars have something to say real quick.
Oh, the chocolate master himself.
Ready? Can you tell them what you think about the drink?
I like the drink. I like the drink.
Good. I like
I
that
really
you guys
like
like
the
the
drink.
drink. Good. Tastings are fun. It's fun to have pairings and try different drinks. I imagine at that house they don't get a lot of soda either, so it's probably really sweet.
Yes.
Yes, Miss Lilybird?
I love chocolate.
You love chocolate? I didn't know that
It's
about
my
you.
favorite kind of candy.
What about you, Richie?
I was gonna say with the
Lemonade.
like the other one
Tonic.
with the tonic and the goat cheese.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Actually, when you actually like mix it or swish it around for a little bit, some of it actually tastes like sparkling water a little bit.
Huh. Cool. I like that. They almost neutralize. And I also wanted to call attention, in the apple drink, you guys have dandelion roots. Have you guys seen dandelions? I bet some of you even have it in your garden. It's a pretty common flower, and I imagine none of you have thought about eating the greens, let alone playing with the roots. But they're edible, and you can make all sorts of fun flavors with them. The leaves are really bitter. It's not my favorite green in the world, but I like the roots a lot.
I think we have a couple more, and then I'm sure
Great.
we'll get to chocolate. It looked like the Brzezinskis are raising their hand.
Go ahead, Dan. What do you want to say, Dan?
The most chocolate I like of all is the one that comes from is Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Oh, we got a Hershey's man himself. Okay. I think you might like this one. It's going to be similar to the ones from Hershey's. I love it. A man who knows what he likes, though. What else, guys?
Looks like Stilton Starla has something.
Yes, Miss Starla.
Chocolate. My mom and me really love chocolate.
Good.
Yes, we do.
I love it. Is it time to start chocolate? Do we have any other cheese questions or proclamations of our love of chocolate?
Let me go through, do one more sweep. It looks like.
Thank you for doing that, Benji.
Yeah, looks like hands are.
So, the Mongers Provisions crew, we really like to learn with food. Lily can tell you, Uncle Zach, I'm her uncle, I like to talk a lot about food. And so today with the chocolate, I actually found a video where I thought they did a better job than I could ever do telling you about chocolate. And I want you guys to know a little bit more about chocolate than you do right now before we taste. So we're going to take another video break for any of you guys who need to get up and stretch a little bit. This one's not a song, I'm sorry, nor are there any cute mice. But this is another chocolate video, and it's going to tell you all about it. And she has cooler hair than me, so I thought she'd do a better job.
Perfect. So
Thank you, Benji.
everyone can see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful.
Where does chocolate come from? Great question, Squeaks. Believe it or not, chocolate grows on trees. The main ingredient in a chocolate bar starts out looking just like this. I know, they look nothing like this chocolate bar or even the cocoa powder we put in hot chocolate. Those are actually beans, and not just any beans. The beans that give us chocolate grow on the cacao tree, and it takes a lot of hard work to turn them into the type of chocolate that we can eat. You might think that any tree that helps us to make chocolate is pretty special, and you'd be right. Cacao trees are picky about where they like to grow because they need lots of heat and water. So most cacao trees grow in a part of the world that's right in the middle, where there are lots of warm, wet rainforests. Now, even though the cacao tree needs lots of heat, it doesn't do well in bright sun, so the tree doesn't get too tall. Instead, it grows closer to the ground, where it can stay mostly in the shade that's made by taller trees. Like a lot of trees, the cacao tree makes flowers. Its flowers are white, and they grow right along the main part of the tree, straight out of the bark. Part of these flowers eventually grow into big pods. It can take 6 whole months for the pods to be ready. That's half a year. Once a cacao pod is ripe and ready, a person cuts it from the tree using a sharp knife. And when they open up the pod, it looks like this. Can you see the beans? Inside of each pod are about 50 cacao beans, along with a bunch of white stuff called pulp. People scoop out the beans and pulp from inside the pods, then put what they scooped out into big wooden boxes and leave everything alone for about a week. During that week, the white pulp turns into liquid, leaving behind the cacao beans, which are then put into the sun to get nice and dry. Now, these beans may look brown like the chocolate you see in stores, but they don't taste like that chocolate. A cacao bean tastes pretty bitter, and it takes some work in a chocolate factory to turn these beans into the delicious treats that we get to eat. At the factory, the first thing they do is to roast the beans in big ovens. After a cacao bean is roasted, it turns dark and looks like this. Next, they take off the hard outside of the cacao beans, leaving the soft insides. Then they smash and grind the inside until it's a thin paste. And we can do lots of different things with this paste. To make a chocolate bar, the chocolate factory mixes the paste with things like sugar and milk. Then they stir the mixture for a long time and pour it into a mold, which is kind of like a bowl that's specially shaped to look like a chocolate bar. They leave the chocolate to cool for a while and become solid instead of all liquidy. Then they take it out of the mold, wrap it up, and send it to stores for us to buy. Whew. From a cacao tree to your store, that's a lot of work that goes into one piece of chocolate. But I think it's worth it. And now...
Whoa, that is a lot of work. I'm happy I didn't have to say that much stuff, let alone do all that work. At one point in our career, Will and I got to work at a place that made chocolate not from beans, but it repurposed chocolate and reformed it. So there's chocolatiers, which is if you were up at Mackinac, or if you're at Bon 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 or Rocky Mountain Chocolate Company, you see chocolatiers where they're kind of playing with chocolate and making it into fun shapes. And it's really hard work, but there's even more work if you're a chocolate maker. At Mongers, we really like focusing on chocolate makers, and we like to focus on people from all around the world and chocolate from all around the world, as long as it grows in that little equator. So we have 2 chocolates for you guys. We have 2 different ones, and we're going to start with the Maru. Okay, so how many of you guys have ever seen a chocolate pod, either in a storybook or maybe you went on vacation? Go ahead and write in the chat if you've seen it. I also would love to know where you were on vacation that you saw it. I had never seen one until 2 years ago. I saw my first cacao pod when I was in Colombia. This company is in southern Vietnam. You know, I know that she drew this little line about the equator, and the chocolate has to be 20 degrees north or south of that line. And so you can grow chocolate in southern Vietnam, but you can't do it in northern Vietnam. And a piece of geography that maybe some of you might get is I can grow chocolate in Cuba, but I can't do it in southern Florida. So this chocolate is a dark chocolate. I'm wondering if anybody knows what makes it a dark chocolate, what's missing from this chocolate, so to speak. Does anybody think they know the answer?
Looks like we have a few hands raised.
Oh, beautiful.
Is it Babcock Bree? Is your hand raised?
Is less sugar in it?
Ooh, less sugar. That's a great idea. This one does have a little less than a lot, but that's not what's missing from the chocolate. Does anybody have another guess?
It looks like we have Stilton Starla's hand raised.
Less milk.
Less milk. Good job, Starla. So dark chocolate, when they say dark, it is often less sugar. You are right. It's usually a really high cacao and low sugar, but what we're really missing is milk. And I don't know that I'd say missing. It's just not there. It's its own thing. I think dark chocolate can be so delicious. And Will, who's our chocolate buyer, he can tell you when I was younger, I really only liked milk chocolate, but now my cupboard is 50-50, dark chocolate, milk chocolate. It depends on the mood I'm in. So chocolate's no different than any other product. Let's do our little evaluation. Let's go through the whole thing, just like every other thing. So first thing is, what does it look like? Does anybody notice something about this chocolate? I'm trying to see if I can get it to, oh, there we go. Did anybody notice how it kind of picked up the light? This chocolate's a little shiny. That's a really important part of good chocolate. It should have a little shininess to it. We're going to smell the chocolate. I also really encourage you guys, once again, to break the piece open and smell it right away. See if it's more intense with that fresh break. And then, did you guys hear that? That little snap. So I know the cheeses were a little quiet tonight, but the chocolate started to make some sound, so we can use that sense, our hearing. When a chocolate is well tempered, well made, it should have that snap as well as that shine. And then the feeling. I don't really suggest you do the Play-Doh method with chocolate. I think if you touch it for a little bit, you can get a sense of, does it feel like it melts a little bit under our heat of our hands? Or does it feel a little waxy or things like that? But I don't think we should push and kind of play with it as much, because otherwise you'll notice that this stuff does melt really quickly in our fingers and leave a little residue. And that's because it's pure chocolate. Cocoa butter melts nicer than other fats. So Daniel mentioned Hershey's. Hershey's is a great chocolate company in Pennsylvania, and they make various chocolates, but they're not using cocoa butter. They're using other fats, so it melts a little different. They also tend to make chocolate that has a lot more sugar and less cocoa. So a Hershey dark bar is 46% dark chocolate, while this dark bar is 70% chocolate. So if you're going to the cupboard because you really want chocolate, sometimes you can eat less chocolate and get that same satisfaction because you're eating more chocolate per bite when it's 70%, but you're getting less sugar. Does anybody have any questions or notes of flavors that they tasted in the dark chocolate bar? I would also love to know if anybody doesn't usually like dark chocolate but found one they liked.
It looks like we have a few people with hands raised, so we'll start with Munster Man Henry.
Yes, sir.
Got it.
It's worth the work to make it.
Awesome.
Perfect. It looks like Dan has something to say from the Brelenskis.
Yes, sir, Daniel, sir.
Go ahead, Dan.
I noticed something. It's like the dark chocolate is a little bit black, and it doesn't really look the same as like this chocolate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little darker. I think that's a really good call. The dark chocolate is darker. The milk chocolate has this like light brown, while the dark chocolate is almost black. It's a great observation. Yep.
Like I think that's why they call it dark chocolate.
Good
I
one.
think so too. I think that's part of the reason.
Yep.
Does anybody taste anything different?
Looks like Stilton Starla has her hand raised.
Well, I think it kind of smells.
Mute yourself.
I think it kind of smells like nothing. It kind of smells like nothing.
Kind of smells like nothing to you.
Yeah, just a little
Okay.
chocolate.
Does anybody taste raisins when they taste it?
No,
It's a little fruity.
No?
a little.
Yeah.
Fruity? Okay, a little bit. Sometimes it's hard. Chocolate I find to be harder to taste than cheeses in terms of finding really good words to describe it. Chocolate's kind of intense, right? It hits our palate, and part of the reason we like it so much is because as soon as you eat it, you're just like, whoa, chocolate. And I think that makes it harder for our brain to have all these different words like, oh, I taste cherry, or I taste roasted notes, or hazelnuts, or so on and so forth. Does anybody have any questions before we go on to a milk chocolate?
Looks like the Cheeseburgs have their hand raised. Richie. Lily.
Yes.
So the dark chocolate kind of like tastes like a lot of milk is mixed in with it.
You taste milk in it, huh?
Did this chocolate and it is so good.
Lily likes that milk chocolate. All right, so I think it's time for everybody to open up their Om Nom chocolate. And some of you will have a rainbow one. Some of you will have the one I had, which is the pink hummingbirds. Om Nom's a really cool company. So Om Nom is a really good example of, like Hershey's, they're not in a place where they could possibly be growing their own chocolate. They're really far north in Iceland. And so they're buying cocoa or cacao from somewhere else and then taking the beans and making it into chocolate. So there are no cocoa pods in Hershey, Pennsylvania, but there are those beans, and that's how they're making it into chocolate. They import them, they buy them from other countries. And just like that, Iceland is buying chocolate from all over the world and making it. My bar is from Madagascar. Some of you might have Nicaragua. Some of you might have a blended one. This company is really cool, and if anybody likes Netflix, the new Zac Efron show, he goes to this place in episode 1. Om Nom's a really cool company, and they make delicious chocolates from a couple different sources. And one of the things you might notice when we go through our whole process is, well, how about we go through the process? I'm getting ahead of myself. I apologize. Okay, ready? The first thing we're going to do is look at it. Does everybody remember what it's supposed to look like? Or what we're looking for when we look at a chocolate? I'm sure somebody does. And I think we already had an observation earlier that this one's a little lighter in color, right? Hopefully it has that shine. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to smell the chocolate. I think this one's even harder to smell than the dark chocolate, even with a fresh break. I'm mostly smelling my cheesy fingers at this point. And then we snap, right? We got to listen for it. A little snap in that one. It's a little quieter. It's a little softer, right? When I was touching it, I could feel that it's a little softer. What do you guys think makes this chocolate a little softer? Does anybody know?
Going through, seeing if anyone has their hand raised. Or put yourself off mute if I can't find you.
Well, I'm going to go ahead.
Looks like we got one. Ariana, Rebecca, and
yeah. What do you guys think?
I think it's a little softer because of the milk.
Ding, ding, ding! You're the winner. Good job. That's totally why. That added milk gives it a little more fat. So it has a little less of a snap. It's still a really well-made chocolate. If some of you guys might notice from shopping in the grocery store, Iceland is really popular with their dairy products. People talk a lot about Icelandic yogurt, Icelandic milk, and this is no different. This is using Icelandic milk powder. That's how we get milk in chocolate. It's not liquid, it's powder. And we actually were on a tasting with this guy yesterday. Will and I were really lucky to listen to him talk, and we got to eat chocolate. And he was talking about how when they get the milk powder, you know, you dehydrate, you get the water off the powder by heating up the milk a little bit, and you cook it and cook it and cook it until there's no more liquid and you have powder. And they do it in a really slow and low way, so it caramelizes just a little bit. So kind of like when you're if you're ever putting butter in a pan and it starts to turn brown, that's caramelizing. And so as the milk sugars get a little browner from cooking, they get a little sweeter and a more rounded note. And I think that really comes out in this chocolate. It's one of my favorites. What do you guys think?
Let's see. Vivian, are you Vivian and Cyrus? You raising your hand? Your hand up there. Gotta unmute yourself if so. There you go.
Chocolate tastes like berries.
This chocolate tastes like berries. That's a really good note. Which
chocolate.
The first one.
The first one. Oh, cool. I love that. I love that. So he tasted berries. I tasted berries too. Well, I tasted grapes, but my grapes were dried grapes. Did you taste fresh berries or dry berries?
Looks like you got Hopman. The Hopman family has it raised as well. We're gonna go to them. Hopman, and
Yeah.
you can unmute yourself. Go for it.
I think that chocolate the darker one does not have milk in it, and the sweeter one does have milk in it.
Oh, yeah. You taste the sweeter one does have milk in it and the darker one doesn't. You are right. The milk chocolate is a little sweeter as well as creamier. And also, it only has 45% chocolate, and the rest is that milk and that sugar. But if you guys remember, it's more chocolate, or it's almost the same amount of chocolate in there as the Hershey Dark Bar. So I think this is my preference.
Looks like Maeve's up next for something real quick.
Yeah.
Chocolate. What are the bumps on the chocolate?
So if you have one that has bumps on the back of it, they're little caramel puffs. And so almost like a rice puff, like in a crispy bar, but there's no rice. It's actually just all caramelized sugar, kind of puffy.
This is the best. The almond chocolate is the best chocolate I ever had.
Yes, I'm so happy to hear that you think that. I think it's one of the best companies ever that made chocolate, and I really like it. And I really like that they tell us where the chocolate's from. My big problem with Hershey's, don't say anything about where they're buying it from. And I want to know if they're buying it from Nicaragua or Madagascar or Ecuador. And I really like tasting all the chocolates from different places around the world. It's almost like collecting something. Right now at our store, I think we have chocolate from over like 25, 30 countries. And if you talk about places like Peru or Nicaragua or Venezuela or Vietnam, southern Vietnam, you could taste what the difference is between the chocolate in this little city or that little city. It'd be like if we could grow chocolate here, what's the difference between it in Birmingham or in Berkeley? Or what does it taste like in Detroit versus Livonia? It's a really fascinating idea to try these little changes that what happens if I grow it somewhere versus somewhere else.
Perfect. I think, I don't know, Techners, do you have a question? It looked like someone was raising their hand there for a moment. Not sure. No, that does not look like it. We do have a question. Looks Vermont and Vivian and Cyrus were raising their hand, but I don't know if they are still have a question. Yep, Vivian and Cyrus, what's you're up.
My question is, if you when you think that the second chocolate tastes like creamy, more chocolate, please. I told you more chocolate, and you did not answer.
So I heard the chocolate tastes like creamy chocolate.
Yes.
And that we wanted more of it. I think that's a great review. That seems like 5 stars to me.
Yes, we have a question in the chat. What cacao percentage is the Om-Nom bar? I know there's some different ones out there, but
So there's some different ones. Om-Nom, if you have the Pride bar, Will, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to guess that it's in that 40% range. The Milk of Nicaragua, if anybody got that one, I believe is 50. And the Milk of Madagascar is 45.
Perfect.
So
like the Berlinskis have a quick question.
Can you mix s'mores with the non-chocolate?
Not only can you, but I think it's a brilliant idea. and I'll be over whenever you do it next. I'll come by and try them. I think that's a great idea, Daniel. And I hope I can come over to try them.
Perfect.
So you can totally make s'mores with this chocolate. And I think it's going to do the same kind of good meltiness as other chocolates. I think that s'mores work better with milk chocolates than dark chocolates because they're a little softer and tastier. But you can even try a s'more with a dark chocolate, especially if it's one that's like really smooth. Sometimes it can be really nice. I also, when I do some of these tastings and I have all the chocolate out and all the cheese, sometimes I like to try those together and make my own milk chocolate by taking something like the brie and eating it with a dark chocolate. So if anybody wants to try a fun experiment, I'm going to try that right now. Well, Benji tells me if we have any other questions.
Werner and the Curd Burglars, do you have your hand raised? I don't know if that's from the past or if it's a new one. So
okay, Kemp, do you want to tell them? So Kemp's got a combination that he would like to share. You want to tell them what's in your combination?
He's a tail.
So he took a fresh cherry. Here's the fresh cherry, a red cherry. And he took one of these crackers that they sell at Mongers, and he put, what's the cheese, the soft cheese?
Fromage dauphinois.
On the cracker with a fresh cherry smushed in the middle.
And this is...
That is awesome.
And
Jack just dropped a piece of red Leicester into the fruit belt tonic.
So that he could share a combination too. You want to try it and let them know?
I love you guys.
How is it?
The future Mongers.
It's good.
And he says it's good.
I think the Om Nom Pride Bar is like 38 or 43%, somewhere in that range.
Thank you. Well, friends, I am so impressed with some of the combinations and tasting notes. I don't have that much more to say, but before I get going, I want to hear what people saw about my t-shirt. I know the Mockridges were ready to answer. Did anybody else see the different things in the shirt? Well, then it sounds like the Mockridges are up. You guys want to answer it on live, or do you guys?
Sure, why not? Our kids abandoned us, but she said pizza and chicken wings.
Pizza and chicken wings. Beautiful. Detroit is known for our Detroit pizza, and that is exactly right. And there's also some fantastic chicken wings. I'm a big Sweetwater's fan in Detroit. Check out this company. They make some fun T-shirts, and they're in the Rust Belt. If anybody wants to come visit us on the weekends, we're in Ferndale in the Rust Belt Market. And all the time, we're in Detroit at Midtown, over on Cass between Canfield and Willis, for all of us little ones that are driving. And of course, you can find us on the internet with all of our new stuff on the website. And we have other tastings coming up. So the next one we're doing tomorrow is Italian. We're going to be doing an Alpine cheese tasting soon. And we're starting to learn our AGCs. I know that sounds wrong, and it is. I'm not trying to confuse you, but it's Alpine cheeses, Gouda cheeses, and cheddar cheeses. So it's our new series, the AGCs. So if you guys ever want to learn more about cheese, I'd love to have you at one of our tastings, all us little mongers in training. And I'm just so thankful for all the participation today. Thank you guys so much.
Looks like we have some last minute comments for you.
Please.
Before you go, the Brelinskis and Dan, please take it away.
Go ahead. Got a question. The questions for that is that just asking what his favorite cheese and chocolate is.
What was that? What's the cheese? chocolate
What
question?
Zach's favorite cheese and chocolate is?
Great question. Thank you, Daniel. Ooh, I sometimes say that it's almost like asking your parent which kid is the favorite, which is not a fair question. Don't ask them that. And so sometimes I like one cheese better this day. Sometimes the next day it's this cheese. It really kind of changes a lot for me. But one of my all-time favorite cheeses is a cheese called Comté. It's spelled like it would sound like it'd be Comte, C-O-M-T-E, but they pronounce it Comté. And I love Comté. We get an older one during the Christmas time. And the rest of the year, we have a slightly younger one. But we usually have it at the counter, and it's one of my favorites. And then chocolate. My favorite dark chocolate is probably the Jamaica bar from Pump Street. And then my favorite milk chocolate, that's a hard one. You know what I've been really enjoying? This is a weird one. It's a chocolate that has a tea in it, an oolong tea from a company called Fosa. So I really like the duck chocolate. It has a really milky flavor, but then it has a really bold tea flavor. Yeah, those are the two chocolates I've been enjoying the most lately.
Perfect. Looks like the Stinky Harbisons have something to say.
I like that name for you guys. That's awesome.
I just wanted to say thank you, and that I loved all the cheeses and that they were really, really good.
Thank you, guys.
They're delicious with this for some of us.
With Stinky Harbisons. I love that.
Looks
What
like
else, guys?
Maeve is next.
We just want to say thank you, and we had fun.
Thank you. I had so much fun having you.
Perfect. It looks like the Cheeseburgs have something. Lily?
I just wanted to say that every single chocolate and cheese was amazing, Uncle Zach.
Yay! Lily, did I talk too much? How did I do?
You did great.
Yes! Thank you. She's a tough crowd, too, so that's a good sign.
Perfect. We got a bunch more. We got Stilton Starla. You can go up next.
I just wanted to say that I love this thing, and I hope you do it again and again and again and again.
And I wanted to say that Cabernet Sauvignon and Red Leicester is a wonderful combination.
They're all delicious.
Beautiful. Thank you, guys. And I owe you some beverages, so let's connect afterwards.
Perfect.
All right.
We have some more. Let's see. I think I saw Munsterman Henry raise his hand at some point.
You're on.
And that, if you want to make one of these, just put cheese on the side of it.
Oh, I love that. Cheese cocktail. Well done. My man, Henry, that is awesome.
Wonderful. The Techners, I feel like I saw some hand raising there. I don't know if you're ready. Nope. All right. We're gonna go to the Werner and the Kurd Burglars next. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
I love this.
Do you remember what it's called?
I don't know.
It's called fromage
I
dauphinois.
love fromage dauphinois.
Very good.
Love this one.
Do you remember that? What that one is? It's red
Yes.
Leicester. And what were you gonna say?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
For done the meeting. Thank you for done the meeting. Thank you all for done the meeting. Thank you all for
Thank you all for
done
joining the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. In the next couple months, you guys are going to see these two Mongers behind the counter. So get ready. Holiday season, the twins are going to strap on an apron and start helping out.
All right. Looks like we have the Hop Manchego family. You're up.
Great name. What's up?
I just wanted to say thank you. The cheese was so yummy, and I hope that we do this again.
Aw, absolutely. Thank you for sitting so quietly and listening. You guys have all been so amazing.
Perfect. Looks like we got Dan with something from the Berlinskis again.
Just want to say thank you. Almost every cut of cheese was really yummy, and wish I could do this again and again.
Absolutely. I think we're going to do it again. I think if everybody's enjoyed it that much, I think we're going to do this again. So we'll have to make sure we get another one on the calendar soon. Anybody else?
Looking around. Yeah, there's a couple claps out there from Ariana, Rebecca. And them.
Oh, thank you all so much. You don't need to go on. I just want to say for anybody who's still there, thank you guys so much. This was so much fun. And this is the first time we've ever done one like this. And I'd love any of your feedback if you guys thought we should add something or subtract something. And if there's any subjects you guys would like to learn more, reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, like I said, this will all be on YouTube if anybody missed anything. And keep following us along. And thank you all so much.
Thanks, Zach.
Did you
Thank
unmute?
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Were you?
Probably on mute.
Bye.